Sean Smith, and we're here for the second episode of Coffee Talk. We're going to have just healthy discussion about what's going on in the country right now related to racial justice. We've got a bunch of different guests from a few different walks of life right now. We've got Jordan Deadwyler, who's an alumni of Minnesota Crookston, who's now the Assistant Sports Information Director at McAllister College. We have Erica Claybrook-Cookman, who's in her first year as Senior Area Coordinator in Residential Life here at UMN Crookston. Krayton Nash, who's the head tennis coach and assistant men's basketball coach in his fourth year with UMN Crookston. And then we've got the student perspective with two students. We've got Skyla Whitaker, who's a junior transfer, and Bronton Johnson, who's a freshman. Welcome, you guys, and just excited to get your perspectives on everything related to what's been going on in the country, especially related to racial justice.
Glad to be here.
So Thank you for putting this together.
Yeah, absolutely. And excited just to get your guys' perspective and really just have a healthy discussion and just see if we can just impact this community, the UMN Crookston community, and I think just a larger SAAC community, and then just college communities at large. But I'll start off just with this first question. Just what have been life-changing experiences that you have had as a Black person that have made an impact on you throughout your life? And anyone's open to start out the discussion here.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say early on I learned from like my mother, my grandmother, and my father that you kind of have to do things to the best of your ability. My grandma would always kind of preach to me, if you do a job, do it well, because sometimes you can't leave things to chance just in case someone decides to judge you off the color of your skin. So that's something that I've always that's something that's been instilled in me that I've tried to do, is just whenever I do something, I do it the best I can.
I just remember when I was younger, in between third and fourth grade, we had moved from the inner city of Milwaukee out to a suburb. And I just remember my parents telling me about how, things are going to be different. Kids might treat you a certain way, just to be prepared, because your Blackness is going to have an effect on them. And I'll never forget, it was fourth grade. That was when I was on the bus first, and I was sitting in a seat, I guess, that some other girl wanted, and blurted it out, called me the N-word. And that was the first instance when somebody had called me that. And, fourth grade, you're still trying to figure things out. I mean, you're young. And to have that happen, I went home and told my parents, and they were obviously upset, but that was the beginning of the journey. Actually, that was my awareness starting at that age, that the color of my skin it matters and things.
For me, I can say that an experience that I had, I think I was in middle school. I think I was in sixth grade. I grew up in a predominantly white suburban area in Georgia. And I mean, being in the South, I don't know what it's like compared to Midwest and up North, but everyone is kind of pretty blatant, I guess, when they're racist. So I was in gym one day and there was this boy, and he just came up to me and he started calling me the N-word. Like, there was no preconceived notion as to why he did it. He just felt the need to say it. And from that point on, especially being a girl, it's kind of hard to understand, like, why, for example, like, boys may not like you for the color of your skin, or why other people may not like you for the color of your skin. So it was like going home, talking to my parents about it. It was hard because I had never been called the N-word before, and it being said so blatantly out loud to me by another student that was the same age as me, it was very odd to me how somebody could say a word like that and just laugh about it and not really have any remorse for saying something like that can be so disrespectful towards another person. So for me, I just kind of carried on that you can't really hold on to the hurt that it causes. The only thing that you can do is try to make friends with people who aren't that way. Try to see yourself in a different light and not really see yourself as that hurtful word that somebody has put on you.
I think Skyla brings up a great point about the intersections of race and gender. For me as a Black woman, a Black woman who is a professional, I often feel that I have to be extremely cautious in the way that I present myself, because I have been written off as hostile. I've been described as angry. I have been described in a really negative light that is not true to who I am and what my personality is. And I know that a lot of that judgment and those microaggressions stem from the fact that I am a Black woman. So I can't speak to any specific experience off the top of my head, but I do know that it is exhausting code switching in the professional setting.
Yeah,
You guys, you can answer, Jordan.
Oh, thank you. I definitely agree with that. Sometimes I feel like I have to be two different people. So when I'm at work, I'm a certain way. And then with my friends and family, I feel like, I'm able to let loose and be myself more. But definitely, like you said, Sky, being from the South, so I'm from Florida. And I think that was taught to me for my protection, just so that I'm not labeled or cast off as something that my parents didn't want me to be perceived as. So I could definitely agree with both of those points.
Well, I also have a story when I had like a group of like white friends or whatever, and I was like the only like colored person. And then I remember when like I was there in the group, whatever, they were talking, they were just saying the N-word. I was like, I'm not like the person that's get mad, like, oh, this and this, like, don't say that, this and this. Like, but I was like I don't feel comfortable with you saying that, like, up close. And I'm saying, like, because, like, certain places you can't really go and say that, and they're not going to warn you or none of that. They're just going to react to it. And they got mad and they started talking about, like, we need to get over that. And because I was like, so why did that start? It was, like, from slavery or whatever. And they said, like, we need to get over slavery too. Like, people have been getting mad over that for too long, this and this. And that really shocked me, because I can't believe that there's people that actually think like that, to just get over slavery like that. But because and I didn't know how to like really react or feel, because like it was so real, like people actually think like this. And I had to learn how to like not know how you say it's like to respect how people feel or whatever, like, and not because a person doesn't agree with you doesn't mean that they're wrong. So I just have to learn how to go around it and like make it okay, which is not, but like, I don't know. If I act aggressively, then I'll be being that person. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't feel comfortable with just saying that to get over slavery, because that hurted me some way.
And see, a lot of times that happens, excuse me, where, you're being told to get over something, and what you got to realize is that person isn't there yet. They aren't there to realize what they're doing and what they're saying and the effect that it has. And they have to have a willingness to be ready to confront themselves and confront these types of biases, because all saying get over it is sweeping it under the rug. And the first way to get, to really deal with a problem is to acknowledge it head on, acknowledge what's going on. And so I hope I didn't interpret this wrong, but like, you were not wrong at all. That person telling you to get over it is the person that's wrong. If that's their way of thinking, they're wrong, bottom line. And I'm to a point right now where if that hurts feelings, so be it, because it's either one way or another. You got to figure this out, that you're wrong in what you're saying, because there's no getting over 400 years plus of what's gone on to our people and the lasting impact and implications that all of that has had on our lives.
I feel like when Black people explain how certain situations make them feel, or when somebody says something that makes them uncomfortable, or whatever the case may be, I feel like people just kind of write it off as, oh, you're too sensitive, or oh, you're too emotional, or you just find a problem with everything. And it's like, no, there isn't a problem with everything, but there is a problem with what you have said or what you have done. And people have a problem taking accountability for their actions and the things that they say or the way that they think or feel. And I understand everyone is entitled to their own opinion and their own thought, which is completely valid. But when your thought is hurtful or your feeling towards a certain group of people is hurtful towards someone else, then there's a problem. But I feel like people do have a problem admitting that there is a problem that underlies that.
Yeah, that gets me just to a question. Just how much do you think it is that, as, white people and just other people coming from different perspectives, how much do you think we have to admit that there is a problem? And how much do you think that these discussions, just open discussions about and confronting race, help those people to confront what's going on and just kind of go from there?
Well, I hope these conversations are eye openers. It's kind of like our book discussion we had. It talks about this very topic of the excuses that us as people of color hear from white people when it all comes down to, just confronting the topic of white fragility. And even well-meaning white people don't quite understand what the effects and the white privilege that they have just based off of white cultural social norms, just things that are not tangible, things that they are just because this whole system was set up for the prominence of white people. And hopefully with having more discussions like this and people being able to hear different things and actually listen and empathize and try to put themselves in our shoes, hopefully with more conversations like this, they'll understand it's not just playing the race card. You can start to see and connect the dots on why certain things are the way they are. But until people are able to confront that and to stop listening to the propaganda and things and just going off of white cultural norms and things they've always heard growing up, and actually sit down and have a civilized conversation, it's not going to make as much a difference.
I completely agree. I'd say from my perspective, I came from Bethune-Cookman, which is an HBCU down in Florida, and being around a lot of other Black students, it's one of the greatest experiences I think a young Black adult like myself could have. I really appreciate my time there, and I appreciate also the time so far that I've had here. Like the cultural differences, the difference in people that I grew up around, that I ended up in my first 2 years of college with, and the people that I'm going to end up with now, I feel like it's so important to be able to share many different perspectives and be able to understand why people feel the way they do. And I feel like education plays a really big part in people figuring out what it is that they need to figure out for themselves. I feel like a lot of people hold views from their parents, which obviously carry on, and that's how the tradition continues. And I feel like although we say education, I feel like that's too broad of a term. And I feel that it's more than just maybe talking about it in your classroom. It's you taking the time to go talk to somebody else that doesn't look like you, taking the time to try to understand your Black friends and how they feel instead of interrupting them every single time they talk. Literally just let them blurt out whatever they need to blurt out and don't take offense to it. Not everything is meant to be offensive, but if you do take offense to it, maybe you should ask yourself why you took offense to it. I feel like open conversations with your family on why they may have the views that they have are important. I feel like even Black people talking to their own family is important. I feel that this topic is there's so many different like pockets of it that you can go into. And I feel that it would be a shame if you didn't try to explore at least a few of them. And so my main thing is just get out there and educate yourself with talking to people with that experience. The more you talk to people with their experiences, the more you open yourself up to different opportunities of understanding and learning other people.
No, I think that's an absolutely great point, Sky. And I think, coming from the perspective, just the white perspective, I think that's what I've tried to do. And that's what I think we have to try to do. And we've got to educate ourselves about what's gone on in this country rather than, a point that was mentioned in the book that we did with Krayton with our diversity group was that we sit here and wait for Black people to explain things to us rather than actually just going out and figuring it out for ourselves and learning, okay, why has this gone on and why is this the view that someone might have? And, we can't expect that from, you guys, from Black people, that we've got to educate ourselves. And that is through just reading up on it. The conversations, I think, is a big part just to get that different perspective. Honestly, one of the first things I did after just hearing what was going on in the country was I talked to Jordan, who's a good friend of mine, about just his experience and what he was going through and what he was feeling of being in the St. Paul area around the time that everything was going on with George Floyd. So while I know it's not perfect and it's, how can I continue to grow and educate myself and move forward as a person and more just aptly understand what it is that the Black experience is. I'll never fully know it, but how can I get closer to understanding what it is that is happening in the country right now?
I really appreciate you reaching out and checking up on me during that time. That was huge for me, and it just kind of it felt good to know that people who don't necessarily know what I'm going through care enough about me or to try and learn about what's going on to reach out. So that was really huge. But I think the biggest thing is just listening. I think that goes a really long way, and doing your own research, of course, with credible sources and things like that. I feel like if more people decided to do that, then we wouldn't be having these conversations as much.
That kind of gets into the next question, and we've talked about it a little bit, but what have been positive experiences that you guys have had over the last few months just relating to conversations you've had with family, friends regarding racial justice that have never really come up in the past, or maybe have come up when big instances of violence against Black people have, but they only come up, when those happen?
Well, I feel like I've been talking a lot, but just as far as positive things over the last few months, the opportunity to like chair this diversity committee, while it did, I had to put some thought behind it because, like you mentioned, like I don't think it's up to Black people to be the ones explaining it. However, if nobody else is going to do it, I'm gladly going to take the throne and be happy with marching with it and giving out the information and sharing my experiences with it. It has been very positive to see people on campus kind of like reach out and see what it's like for me and for other Black people. Because like when I first came on campus, 4 years ago, it wasn't like that. Like nobody really was coming up to me, talking to me about the Black experience in Crookston, because it wasn't a hot button topic. But the fact that we've got this election going on, and I hope everybody here has registered to vote if you haven't voted already. But the fact that it's being talked about is a positive thing to me. We're taking steps in the right direction.
Yeah, I could definitely agree with that. From the standpoint from our athletic department, we have had all of our teams 100% registered to vote, which couldn't have happened without these conversations sparking change. I think it's a lot of things that have gone on. The NCAA has really taken initiative to allow people to tell their stories. And I feel like that's all because of what's going on. So that's been really great. Another thing is that we have for Division III, we have an initiative coming that is for diversity and inclusion, and that's going to be October 27th through the 29th. So just giving our students here the opportunity to tell their story, tell how they support the movement, and also what they're doing in the movement, I think is really big. So those are all accredited to the conversations that we're having now.
Likewise, I think that we're definitely moving in the right direction. I'm a huge sports fan, and just to turn on the NBA and see Black Lives Matter proudly displayed on the court, and after George Floyd, just opening up Apple Music on my phone and being greeted with Black Lives Matter, that is not something that we would have seen just a few years ago. And I think that now our movement has built so much momentum. It truly is anti-racist versus racist. And it's very clear what side people fall on. And I'm happy to know that more people are falling on the anti-racist side.
I feel like when we talk about stuff like this, it feels weird for me because like I feel like we should be doing more stuff like as in like a clothing brand or something like that. So people, let me say this. So Amazon, right? Amazon is $1 million business, $1 billion business because people shop a lot on there. So I feel like if we do something like that for Black Lives Matter instead of like sitting down and talking, because like sometimes I know a lot of people, even me sometimes, I sit down and just talk about something like it's important right now, blah, 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 and later on I completely forget. I don't care no more, like it's out of my brain. But I feel like if more people like make something more like go actually like spend or do something like really big, like to like make it like really important, because like Amazon is really important for a lot of people because of Corona or whatever. So I feel like we should do more something like that instead of like sitting down and talking, because like a lot of people don't like really like talking like that or something like that, but they'll go out and go buy something to show it or to, you know what I'm saying, like make something like represent it. So that's what I feel like, you know, we should do something around that instead of just sitting down and, oh, we should talk about this, talk about Black people now, blah, blah. You know, make it like TikTok. Do something like that. Make it like $1 billion thing. Like, this is important. You know, I feel like that's how we should market it instead of just sitting down and talking about it a lot of times.
Yeah, the economic piece is very important. I get what you're saying with that, and I agree. Because, you know, the access to wealth, that's one thing that, you know, we've got some wealthy Black people in this country. There's no mistaking that. But when you look at the vast majority of them, the really wealthy ones have something to do with entertainment, whether they're an athlete or an actor, or actress, or a musician, some way, shape, or form like that. But the real wealth is like the Jeff Bezos, you know, the ones that are owning the companies. I don't know if you guys are familiar with who Byron Allen is, but he's a comedian. He's in the TV business. And lately he had a Comcast lawsuit that went all the way up to the Supreme Court, and it got sent down to a lower court. That's a long story. But, you know, he's challenging the racism in the TV industry. He owns the Weather Channel. I don't know if you guys know that, but he owns the Weather Channel, a black man. And it's those are the type of strides I agree that we've got to make. And what has to be understood is, you've got this thought process that, if you pull yourself up by the bootstraps, you could make it. But they don't understand that some people don't have boots. They don't understand the obstacles that go into trying to generate wealth. How much harder it is for black people to try to generate the same type of wealth that white people. And it's the rules of it. I heard Jesse Jackson one time say this, and it makes perfect sense to me. When you think about pro sports, okay, let's think of the major ones: basketball, football, baseball. When you look out on the court of the field, you see a lot of black faces or people of color. They're able to make a lot of money. And you question, okay, why is that? Well, when you put it into this context, sports is regulated. Everybody knows the rules. Everybody knows that if you can run 100 meters faster than anybody else, you're the winner. And whatever prize comes to that, you get. And that's why we can excel at sports, because there's no denying it. But when it comes to accumulating wealth, when it comes to being a Jeff Bezos, or when it comes to being a Sam Walton, and going into a bank and trying to get loans and trying to get, the money needed to build these companies, trying to get the capital, there's no set rules to that. And so things can be turned and changed, in and out of your favor, depending on who's in control. And the fact is, we aren't the ones that are in control. And so that's the reason why there's a discrepancy there. So I'm 100% with you. Like, trying to get a TikTok or something like that is definitely the track we need to be on. Like helping out. Let's talk. Did I understand you correctly?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
On campus, I know SAAC has kind of been discussing doing just a T-shirt to display just the racial justice initiative. Just what are some ideas that you guys might have just of what should be on this T-shirt, and just what else can be done on campus to just bring more light to what's going on in the country and just continue to move forward with just the positives that have happened in the world through this, through what's happened.
And I know it's a really broad statement, but something that shows unity. I know it's not on purpose, but I remember for some reason those shirts they showed, other shirts they gave out one of the years I was there, and they had the homegrown shirts that were maroon, and then the transplant shirts that were yellow. So just something, instead of doing that, which it's not even really creating a divide, but in this sense, like whatever you are, whatever race you are, we're all together, we're all one. I think that would be a really good idea for a shirt.
I definitely agree with you, because I was definitely going to say a shirt that has something to do with unity, because I feel like during a time like this, you should kind of feel like there are people that you can lean on in case you are having a bad day, or maybe feeling uncomfortable or whatever it may be. Like, there's somebody that will always be there for you, and it's a united.
That's true. I agree with that. Like I was telling Scott one time, that when people say, I know a lot of people that thinks that when we say Black Lives Matter, some people take it out of context like they're the only one that matter. It's all lives matter, but right now the Black lives are being attacked and need help, and they've been being attacked. So it's not just Black Lives Matter. Like she said something like, we all matter, but less, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. It's basically until, like, it's almost as if, I guess, this is kind of sensitive, but it's kind of like the pro-life argument. Well, if you don't care about Black lives, how can you be pro-life? How can you be for people being alive if you don't even care about your next door neighbor maybe needing your help? Like, it's, yeah, it's like that.
That's true.
Yeah, I
All
think
lives
all
can't
those.
matter till Black lives matter.
I think that's a great point, and I've honestly had to have those conversations, or you've seen those happen on Facebook and different things of people saying, "Well, it should be all lives matter," but that's beyond the point. Like, yes, all lives matter, but like you guys said, until we realize that Black lives matter, that's what matters at this moment, and it should matter, until it's, and I know we're a long road away from this, until it's equal. Black lives matter, and yes, we all matter, but I think it's a good point too. If you're going to sit here and say that you're pro-life, which I'm very Christian, and I'm around a lot of very religious people who are very, pro, life, and it's like, okay, well, it can't matter until all lives matter.
Another thing that gets twisted too is when you mention Black Lives Matter, people want to try to politicize that. They want to try to kidnap what you're trying to say. And I feel it's very important to make sure when I talk about Black Lives Matter, I'm talking about the movement. You can have whatever opinion you want about some group and try to politicize it all you want, but make no mistakes about it. When I'm saying Black Lives Matter, it means Black Lives Matter.
Nope.
I can't wait to see when they come in, but we got some shirts for the tennis team coming in because some of the ladies wanted to wear them, and we're gonna wear them around campus. And I know people are gonna have something to say, but that's the message that I'm going to convey to them: is don't try to hijack what we're saying here, because that's a common tactic too.
Yep. No, and I think that's important that people start to see that, and whatever they think about it, it's going to get some discussion going, and I think that's healthy, and hopefully it is healthy discussion. But I mean, that's the thing. You've seen a lot of even just white people posting Black Lives Matter, and I've seen other people go and commenting and saying the all lives matter, and then it becomes a political discussion when it's not necessarily meant. It's not meant that way. It's that Black Lives Matter. It's not that. It's a frustrating thing, and I know I've had that frustration. My wife's had that frustration, posting different things. It's like, no, we're not trying to be political here, but we're trying to make the point that yes, Black lives matter, and that's what we need to be realizing right now in this moment, and always, and it's unfortunate that it took all of these things with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, and the list goes on, for these discussions to happen to this point, because they should have been happening a long time ago. But I'm glad we're here now, that it seems like change is finally starting to happen. As late as it is, at least it's moving forward now. So the last thing I had to ask, just what have been your experiences as a Black person on the UMN Crookston campus and in the city of Crookston? I know everyone's been here or was in Crookston for different amounts of time, but just how do you think the campus and the community can just grow through your experiences and just better cultivate healthy racial justice discussions?
I could start because I'm a student.
Mm-hmm.
I guess even though I'm new here and there's not really many people out all the time because of Corona, I would say it's been interesting. It's different for me. Definitely not what I got used to, but I feel that no matter where you go, you're going to have people that have their opinions and ways that they feel. And I do feel like majority of the people on this campus do not feel a certain type of way against Black people or people of color. But I will say, like, sometimes there's an odd look, or I talked about Black Lives Matter in a class, and like there was really no rebuttal. And so sometimes it's like those open-ended like conversations that you may have in class that it's brought up and nobody says anything, and it kind of like the silence is always louder than somebody actually speaking up. And I feel like the silence is just it's too much. Like, it feels like it drowns me out, and it almost feels as though if you're talking about it, it doesn't matter, which at the end of the day, being Black, like, I'm going to talk about it proudly no matter where I'm at. So whether people like what I have to hear or not, they're going to hear it regardless. And I mean, I think the community as a whole, I feel like it is very important to have these conversations, whether you're from a small town and you've never seen a Black person before, or you come from the inner city and you see a bunch of Black people. I feel like it's very important because there are certain experiences in life that I feel like everyone should be able to share and should be able to have. So I just feel like learning and growing as a whole community, I feel like would be great. And maybe even a bigger open-ended talk or anything, really. People proudly put signs wherever they want to put them. And so it's almost like you can't get mad when somebody feels a certain way about something and they put a sign out. I don't feel like how you guys were saying, being political with Black Lives Matter, it's not political at all. I feel like when there are rebuttals that are all lives matter or blue lives matter or whatever it may be, those are microaggressions. Those are actual aggressions. Like, that's racist, because how are you going to rebuttal to me saying Black Lives Matter and then you're going to say blue lives, which blue people do not exist, and all lives, yes, all lives matter. We're not dumb, but Black Lives Matter right now because it's what's hot on topic. We have a list of thousands, maybe millions of people that we have no idea what happened to them. We don't know all of our ancestry. I can't go to one Black person in my family and ask for my ancestral tree. It won't happen. So it's very important to me that other people do understand that it's not just something that we're going to get over in a few months, in a few years. It'll always be here.
Well, the Blue Lives Matter thing, I always tell them people, you chose to be a cop. You chose law enforcement. I didn't choose to be Black. You can take that uniform off. Nobody knows what you are. Everybody's going to see my Black behind a mile away when I'm walking down the street, especially being 6'5" and 300 pounds.
Well, as a staff member, I feel like my perspective on the campus climate and the Crookston community as a whole is one of needing improvement. Absolutely needing improvement.
I second that.
I feel that conversations are often had of, okay, well, how do we get more Black students? And I think the conversation needs to change to, why are our Black students leaving? And
yes.
Until we're willing as a university, as a town, to address the very pervasive racism, we cannot, in good conscience, market ourselves as a place that is safe and welcoming for Black students, for Black staff, or for Black faculty. I come from Los Angeles, very diverse, very different, and I've only been here a few months. And I get asked a lot, oh, how are you settling in? I'm not settling in, because I sit in Zoom meetings all day. I'm the only Black person. I'm the only woman of color. I go to the grocery store, the only Black person, the only woman of color. And while I know that my visibility on campus is important for Black students, it also is a shame that there seems to be tiptoeing around the real issues here. If people don't feel like they belong, they're not going to stay.
I definitely agree with that. Like, especially going to the store. If I had a nickel for every time that I heard like this question, I would have so much money. Like, people would come up to me and I'd be wearing clearly baseball gear, and they say, basketball or football, what position you play? And I just feel like, it's weird to see a Black person here playing a different sport, or even the notion that you have to be a student athlete to be here if you're Black. I feel like that's something too, like, you'll hear people getting harassed, like, oh, you don't play any sports? Why? And it's just like, I'm here to be a student. Like, I'm not here to, dribble the basketball or do anything like that. I'm just here to get my degree. And I feel like that's a shock to a lot of people here, because when they see a person of color, usually it's attached to them being an athlete.
I can say, like, even though I am new here, from a Black student athlete perspective, it definitely is different. Like, you go into practice and you maybe go into the gym, and that might be the only time that day that you see somebody that looks like you. And I feel like that is very odd. Like, when I'm sitting in class, I'm the only Black woman, let alone Black person in the class. And to me, it's not uncomfortable, but it is kind of disheartening that it's like, well, why don't more people come here that look like me? You were saying you walk into Walmart. I get stares when I walk into Walmart. It's almost as if you've never seen a Black person before. And I understand that some people have never seen it. So I get that, but it's the constant, like, questioning on people's faces. And even though they're wearing masks, they're still questioning, like, why are you here? And how you said, like, most people are just like, why are you here if you're not an athlete? Well, why are you asking me that? Am I not supposed to be here? And it just, like, it leaves in a Black student's head all these different underlying questions and uncomfortabilities on the inside, that it's kind of like, well, why am I here? Like, why did I come here? People are questioning me. People are looking at me weird. I'm really not making it out within the peer groups around the school. So it will make somebody uncomfortable, and it will deter them from coming out here. And like Erica said, this is definitely something that should be talked about in the community. It's definitely not something that should stay quiet for the comfort of some people's ears. I feel like we're way beyond that point where people's ears need to be comforted and consoled. I feel like this is real raw discussion. And if you're in college and you're going to make it out into the adult world where there will be real raw discussions, then so be it.
Yeah, also, like, even when like what she said, like, I go to Walmart, like, a lot of people look at me, listen to this, like, I know I look beautiful. Like, I be feeling weird, but, like, I barely see Black people. I'm like, wow, like, it's like I gotta get used to it, you know what I'm saying? Whatever, I got used to, like, but sometimes, even in school, in class, a lot of the teachers too, like, I'm the only Black person in the class, right? A lot of teachers just, like, ask me a question like, oh, why Crookston? This and this, why Crookston, blah, blah. I'm like, it's a school, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, you play basketball, right? Basketball, this, football, no sports? No sports? Like, yeah, no sports. I'm just here for academic scholarship, probably, you know? I'm just doing my degree. Like, I want to come to Crookston. Why not? You know, like, sometimes they really put me in the spot in classes, like, just me, just ask you questions. I'm like, yeah, like, why this? Like, what kind of ethnicity this? I'm like, oh my God. It was weird. And, like, like, I'm just the only person that asks the question. They just move on to the next one, laughing, blah, 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 whatever. I'm like,
In terms of what I feel could be done, particularly related to the campus, I would love to see the Black Student Association be revived. I have gotten different tidbits of history behind that, of why it is inactive, but I think that if we have the administration's full support, which we do, there's no reason that it shouldn't be done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was part of that 2 years ago, and because last year it pretty much dissolved, and it was the students, a lot of them were the African students that were part of it, and you know, like, one of my players, Diane, she's from South Africa, she was the head of it, and then for, you know, other reasons, she pulled out of school, and then it just took a nosedive after that. It's just a matter of, you know, first of all, letting these students know that it's available to them, that way you can get this going, and then giving them the information to be able to, you know, put it together and take the lead and everything like that.
I definitely agree with that. Like, I don't know, it's so much stuff that as I graduated, or, you know, as I was spending my time up there, I didn't realize was available to us. Just something like quick. the pool. I didn't know that we can go to the pool and use the pool for free because it wasn't really advertised. So I feel like something like just if you advertise that you could do this or you could do that, or that we have the resources here to do this, I think that would go a long way with getting the right people to start that committee.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think we definitely in the past and are getting a little better at it, but there's still a lot of work to do in terms of advertising things and making sure people are aware of all the opportunities that are available. But the fact that that opportunity isn't available right now is a shame. That it got to that point, that the Black Student Association doesn't even really exist right now. So hopefully, you know, with the work you're doing, Erica, and obviously with what hopefully what students are able to do, it can get back up and running. And the fact that it's not running is kind of a shame. And I didn't honestly realize that it wasn't as of last year. But yeah, hopefully the word can get out and it can grow into what it should be.
Just to touch upon like what the community can do, you know, understanding, empathy, those are two big words, empathy being the biggest one, you know, and trying to figure out what's going on. A lot of times they're getting their information from flawed sources.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, for example, the protests, when you hear in this neck of the woods, and when they talk about the protests, they don't call them protests, they call them riots, because they like to take the one, you know, the small negative population that are out there, taking the opportunity to create chaos, and they're blanking that for the whole thing, when they need to understand that it's getting to a point to where white tranquility has to be disturbed, because right now that's the only way we're being heard. And you know, sometimes we, you know, I'm speaking to all of us, we can't be afraid to disturb that, you know, when it comes to having conversations. Unfortunately, you just have to hurt some feelings, and, you know, explain what you're saying to them, know what you're talking about and everything like that, but be unapologetically Black, because that's just the only way progress is going to be made. And when people the ears start opening and they change the discussion, like Erica said, that's the only way things are going to change.
So this is also, you know, Black student athlete perspective. This summer, or like really during the quarantine time, when you said NCAA was doing a lot of different like cameos and stuff on different athletes, there was one big thing that I would always see, especially with a lot of girls that played volleyball, and it would be a picture of like, if you don't support me here, and it would be a picture of them on the court.
I think I know what you're talking about. If you're going to support me here, then you need to support me there.
Yes, exactly. So for me, it's like, especially now that there's no football team, which brought majority of the Black student athletes to this school, it's like I'm going to be left along with two other volleyball players that are also Black. And one is Colombian, the other one is Puerto Rican, but those are ethnicities. So it's like, for me, it feels like it's inclusive, which is really nice. But I don't want to be looked at as, oh, wow, she can jump really high, or, oh, wow, she can do this. And I feel like Black athletes are always looked at as like some kind of, I don't want to say like animal, but it's almost like super
specimen.
Yeah, like it's super entertaining to watch us jump in the sky and like do all these different things that you've never seen someone do before. And I feel like I can speak for majority of athletes, that feeling of almost like, okay, well, you like me when I'm here, but you see me outside and it's a completely different attitude. And for me personally, I would like the community to kind of have some kind of, I don't know, when it comes to maybe students and student athletes, like some kind of get together where like you can, and I know Corona's happening, so this obviously would be in the future, but some kind of like get together where people can be themselves and you actually get to know an athlete or a student for who they are, and not just because they play basketball or tennis or volleyball. And it's more so becoming more personal, because student athletes and students are also people as well. It's not just what you see on the outside. And I feel like that's very, very important, especially because a lot of institutions, a lot of different companies make a lot of money off of Black athletes. And I feel like it's never really reciprocated in the sports. It's like, I'm pretty sure there are many great Black quarterbacks, but you hear about Tom Brady all the time. And it's like, is he one of the greatest? Absolutely. But there's a lot of other men who do not get the recognition. And am I saying because of their skin color? I don't know, but they make up majority of the population of the NBA, of NFL, like a bunch of different sports. And I feel like it's time that Black people receive recognition, and not just, here's your check and you should be happy with that.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and I think it's huge for just the community here at UMN Crookston and Crookston, but everywhere, to start realizing that and just see more than just the athletic ability that was touched on, and respect you guys as student athletes for what you are first, students and people, and not just the athletic ability. And I think that's something we have to continue to do, is just foster those discussions and foster those just those events that can get people more in touch with who you are, not just Skyla Whitaker, the volleyball player, Jordan Deadwyler, the baseball player. It's that you're people, and who are you, and what should I know about you, and just learning more about your experience. And I think that's a big thing of just having this discussion, is just seeing everyone here for what they are, for the people they are, not the skin color, not the obviously that's important right now, but and always should be important, but just understanding, just it's more than athletes, are more than your Black identity or my white identity, that we're people, and we need to be known for that. And just hopefully this can move the needle forward, and that we can continue to have these discussions and understanding each other and understanding each other's perspectives. And this has been a great discussion, and I feel like we've gone a little long, but I think that's great, and just shows just the good conversations we've been able to have. And hopefully this touches people's, and just makes them look in the mirror a little bit, and understand just how we can continue to improve as people, and just have these conversations. They're not always going to be easy, but it's important to have them. And I just thank all 5 of you guys for just being a part of this, and hopefully this really helps with change, not only here in Crookston and on the campus, but just throughout the NSIC, throughout the Midwest, and just we can have a little part in just continuing to move this forward.
Well, thanks for putting this on. I mean, like you said, this is very important. And for the rest of you, if you want to talk about stuff, seek me out. I'm here. I'm on campus and everything. And, I'm not too hard to find. I think I saw you in Walmart earlier, and that's why I make sure that when I see Black people, I acknowledge them, just to say, hey, I see you. I'm acknowledging you. You're not alone.